You guys may follow us online and seen the post that I put up about changes to the Airbnb thing here in Nova Scotia. We've said for the longest time we need to be mindful of where Airbnb goes, or where provinces and states go with the regulation of the Airbnb industry, and how at some point they're going to start cracking down, specifically with the registration and with legal use. Like, are you allowed to have what's effectively a small business running in that location? Me personally, I believe in private property. I think you should be able to do whatever the heck you want to do with your property within reason. Having said that,
Touchy?
having
What are
said
you doing
that,
in your house?
I was going to throw something out there, but it would not be appropriate. So here in Nova Scotia, the province is kind of giving everyone the heads up that things are going to change. They are cracking down on the Airbnb or the short-term rental industry, saying things like anything under 30 days is going to be considered a short-term rental. That's fine, but you're going to have to register with their database. And the way they're going to enforce that, because Neal included, when I told you that, what did you say?
I said I wasn't going to register. Why you?
Not only did you say I wasn't going to register, you also went like this. People who are on the pod can't see what I'm doing here. Like, how do I describe this move? I don't know what this is. You were sort of kind of like a weird Egyptian dance.
It's my Egyptian avoid the regulation Airbnb dance.
He's like, I'm just not going to register. I'm like, well, the problem is then they're going to make all of these sites like Vrbo, Airbnb, only list properties that are registered.
Anyone from HRM or the province, I was just joking.
Yeah, I didn't know what you said. Yeah, you're going to register everything, of course. But they're going to make the databases only list properties that register. But then the question is, well, can the province actually make Airbnb do anything Airbnb doesn't want to do? Not necessarily, but it'll be really easy for someone who works for the government to go on Airbnb, have the list of registered properties, compare A to B, and if they don't line up, they can crack down on you. And what does that cracking down mean? Well, in some cases, it allows the municipality, because these things are enforced at the municipal level, to go there and say, listen, you're running a commercial endeavor in a residential neighborhood. We're shutting you down. If you don't close, we're going to fine you X amount of dollars per day. Additionally, maybe you are in the correct area, but you're still paying property taxes as a residential use. It's commercial use. Your property tax is going through the roof. And then is there a far stretch to go from there to the CRA being like, oh, I noticed that you're on this list, or you were fined for this. How come you weren't paying income tax on this? Like, they are coming for this industry. And one, it's because of the influence of major players in traditional tourism, i.e. the hotel chains and stuff like that. But it's also because of the housing crunch. They don't want these units being, they feel, taken away from potential normal longer-term rentals and being hoarded up for this more commercial profiteering endeavor. And with the crunch right now, they want those units to be returned to the market. Yes, you in the back.
Put me in, coach. Okay, so you said what you've said, and I want to highlight a few things on exactly why I think they're doing this, because everyone's like, oh, it's for the housing crunch. I honestly don't think it's the housing crunch. I think, like you just said, the hotels, the big hoteliers are really pushing against this, even though they've all said that they're carving out their own niche, and we've talked about it on here before, why a hotel might be better regarding room cleanings, room service, the perks that a hotel have, like pools, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. But it definitely impacted their booking stays and even I think their nightly rates. So I genuinely believe it's a mixture of hoteliers going after government and policymakers, and then this is an ideal time to be like, we're having a housing crunch, so we can label it under this, right? Like, we can't say they're encroaching on the multi-billionaire hoteliers. But any of you that think that Airbnb is so bad and it is causing this issue, just keep in mind that there is a small demographic that owns all of the short-term rental hotels, and those families make a fortune, or those companies or those investment funds make an absolute fortune. And this is an opportunity for the rest of the public to maybe squeak in on a very small scale without having to be super expensive, because the barrier to entry for buying or building a hotel or a motel is insanely high. Insanely high. And so if you want an opportunity to try and get somewhere in the world, we've talked about it before, about getting together your down payment or how to start with little to no money. Airbnb is an amazing way to do that. And I think that needs to stay for that reason. I do agree that there should be some regulation. One other thing I want to mention on this concept that you said about the CRA, it's funny, so they'll have you register, then eventually they'll slap a bunch of rules on you, and eventually it'll probably make its way back to CRA, which will come after you for taxes.
Which you should have been paying anyway, I'm just going to say.
Which you should have been paying anyways. But here's the part that I know that they'll do. They'll come after you for the HST, plus they'll add the income to your personal income and expect you to pay your taxes as if it's a personal income. Why does the CRA not come to you and be like, look, we can retroactively look at this as a business, and we say your personal income is $50K a year, your Airbnb made $50,000, go to your lawyer, register yourself as a business. That business is only going to pay 17% active business tax or less, depending what province you're in, and you'll pay a way smaller tax bill. But they would never do that. Like, they don't try and help you get ahead. They're going to absolutely slap you on the face, on the head with the biggest possible bill based on what you did. And for a lot of people, it's the way that they're just getting started. The rules are constantly changing. It was a gray area. That's like that's just like another beef on like why doesn't the government, or why doesn't CRA work with you to be like, this is amazing. We have all these new business owners, and this is what grows a country. This is what grows industry.
Right.
This is what actually inspires people to do something. When we go to them with this tax bill and be like, the only thing they come to is like, oh yeah, we'll give you a payment plan at 36% interest. And I'm like, people take private financing, private loans at 10, 12, 13% to pay a CRA loan because CRA is so aggressive and it's cheaper than paying CRA interest. Like, so anyways, back to my thing. Why don't they come to you and be like, okay, you did Airbnb, you do owe taxes, but what we're going to do is we're going to backdate you on an incorporation, and you're going to be charged active business tax, and now your tax bill goes from $25,000 down to maybe $7,000. And now you're an active business, and you can continue to do this in the right legal places based on the zoning in your areas.
So already everything you're saying makes me sick to my stomach, which is also part of when they pass these regulations, they want to say, listen, you can still do it. And this is what they do. Like, oh yeah, you just need to register. And they know they're going to make it so difficult that some people are going to throw up their hands and then just not bother to do it. But to your point, and I felt the same way about this, it is very hard as a young person to invest in real estate these days. It is price prohibitive. The rates are high. Debt is, the debt that people have coming out of university or whatever it is really challenging. Wages have not kept up with the cost of housing, all of these reasons. And Airbnbs provided a little opportunity to maybe get a bit ahead.
So many people got started off Airbnb.
So many people got started off it. And now to just pull the rug out of that, and I understand that there is this balance between, zoning and bylaws and what makes a neighborhood a neighborhood. But to be so heavy-handed with this, and clearly with the clear intent to just take this industry and wipe it off the face of the earth, just make it gone in our little pocket of the world. It's really frustrating because at the core, those are small little businesses. Maybe you want to call them a side hustle, whatever. But that is, I think, the core of our economy as a country is small industrious people, and to just target them at every chance you can is really frustrating. But I also want to say one last thing. Those of you who flip houses and do the BRRRR model, be ready. Because this is coming your way as well, right? Like there's already all these talks federally that, you're going to be hammered on taxes if you flip within, the first 2 years. And this is a slippery slope towards capital gains tax just on selling your primary residence. And people are going to think that I'm making a huge leap here, but all of this is, and we're getting this is heavy-handed government. And it's in line with, we talked a lot about the tax component of it as well, but we are not that far removed from a capital gains tax on selling your primary residence, which was like the last vestige of tax-free long-term wealth planning that a person could have, even when they're well into their old age. So many people are banking on that to be able to one day sell their home at 75 to be able to live out their days in some sort of assisted living. And I'm telling you,
into higher home prices too.
Of course it is, because you're going to build all of these tax implications into the pricing. But we have this idea that maybe all of a sudden we've been convinced that if we just give the government more tax money, they will make all our problems go away. And I don't understand it, and it is literally counterintuitive to a time where we can't afford anything anyway. But I digress, I guess.
Yeah, let's digress because I have so many things in my head I want to say, and maybe you guys do want to hear it. If you guys want to hear more about this kind of thing and want us to go on rants, let us know. But yeah, we can keep going for a while and why these policies don't make any sense and why you're really crushing a lot of little guys. Same with the house flipper tax. Like, how many actual people are flipping just so many houses and they're taking so much advantage of the system? Like, there's lots of people who flip homes, but no one's flipping like 30 houses a year, just making $100 million. Like, it's like people who are basically making a living plus maybe a little bit of sauce on top, flipping homes. Like, you're not getting these insane corporations just making a fortune off of it.
In a lot of occurrences, they're actually living in the property as well. The idea that this is somehow inflating the real estate market is not true. Like, one, they need the house to live in for themselves anyway. The host, like houses have economic life. At a certain point in time, they need significant capital investment into them. Do we think the houses here in downtown Halifax that are 140 years old, like, I've just survived in their own merit? No, they've had to have been renovated. So someone's doing this and reinvesting into housing stock, albeit on a very micro level in a short period of time. So that home can now last for the next century or half century, whatever it may be. And then they sell the property. So it's actually returning. It's actually turnover housing stock, which is great. All right. So it's so frustrating that we're doing these things, and it's really hurting young industrious people, which, I don't know, is probably our target audience, is probably the people listening to this. So it's super frustrating.